At Rubber Band, we empower each other through positivity, kindness, and practical advice. Join a community of thousands of peers who understand the unique challenges you face. Rubber Band. Company agnostic, low ego, high empathy, always supportive.
Isn't it funny that as recruiters, we talk about delivering a better candidate experience and more efficient recruitment processes, but yet we use tools and systems like ATSs to manage applicants when they come through, but give us no capability to engage and get updates from candidates throughout the recruitment process. That's still done by phone and email. And this is the exact problem that JobTetris is solving. We've created the world's first job and candidate tracking solution to enable you to deliver a better process, more efficient and more transparent, and build on that relationship with candidates. We've partnered with Rubber Band to give you guys an exclusive look into the functions and features of the system during our first ever webinar. We look forward to seeing you there. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out.
Welcome listeners, welcome viewers to today's episode of the Rubber Band vodcast and podcast, where I am joined by Brendan Tremble from JobTetris. Now, before we begin, I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land that I live and work on, the Wadawurrung and Dja Dja Wurrung people. I recognise their continuing connection to the land and waterways. I pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging, and I would like to extend this to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. Brendan Tremble. Hello, welcome.
Thank you for having me, Eden.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure, and I'm excited to share this content with the Rubber Band community and all of our loyal listeners and viewers, because this is pretty cool, mate. This is exciting. And I think anyone that knows me knows that I love to showcase local innovation, and this is a key example of that, mate. So firstly, congratulations. I can't wait to hear all of that.
Yeah.
And how's your week going? How's life in beautiful spring Melbourne for you today?
It's a good week. Yeah, there's been a lot of months of working on this project that have it's starting to come to fruition now, which is great. That means I actually get some sleep at night, so that's great.
Fantastic. Well, I want to start, before we get into JobTetris, I want to talk about you, Brendan, and I want to hear about you've got such an interesting career, so much amazing experience. I'd love you to sort of walk me through how you fell into our game and all of the journey along the way. Tell us about your career, Brendan.
In a nutshell, I suppose the 5-minute abbreviated version, originally Irish, if you can't tell. First role out of school came working for IT company, managed services, so heavily in that kind of sales side, but more relationship based. Moved to Australia 14 years ago in the middle of GFC, and actually kind of continued that sales role for a while, but again, moved more into that project based operations role. So predominantly over the last 14 years, my role has been really focused on that kind of process element of operations and looking at how businesses connect the systems and the people that they work in the business to the customers that they serve. And that's been a big focus for a lot of my career, particularly then kind of working with organizations like Think Procurement 6-7 years ago. Amazing group of people working on a great procurement system and really getting back into that Melbourne tech scene and understanding that part of it as well, which was really good. And that kind of led me up to pre-COVID. So January 2020, my lovely business partner, who happens to be my wife, Laura Fraser, said she wanted to start up her own agency. But again, being a recruiter, we were kind of looking at different aspects, and she said, well, can you come in and help me with the operations side, and we can kind of do this together. And that kind of was my first introduction into recruitment. My past experience were all dealing with recruiters as a client or else dealing with them as a job seeker. And that was kind of my first real introduction into understanding the process of it. And that was kind of over the last 5 years of building a team ourselves, building out clients, listening to candidates, listening to the clients and the problems in between. So it's been interesting kind of even bring some of that process and that customer experience and candidate experience into recruitment, and being able to kind of deliver a great experience for everybody and actually do well on agency side previously.
Amazing. How was it I followed my partner into this industry.
Yeah.
What are the conversations like at home? Is it all recruitment, or do you manage to switch off?
We have a 5-year-old child, so it balances between recruitment and a child. But look, I think me and Laura were really lucky. We actually met 14 years ago when I first came to Melbourne. We actually worked together for 2 years. We did swear we'd never work together again after we left that job. But I think, yeah, it's we have very different skill sets and we stick to our lanes, which makes for a very happy marriage and happy business partner relationship.
Fantastic. Well, Laura's a friend of the Rubber Band community, and we're a big fan of Fraser Tremble Agency. So hello out there to Laura, who I'm sure is watching this demo today. Proud as punch, right?
Very much so.
Excellent. Well, so this leads us to where you are now. I mean, you've launched a new innovation within the tech scene and within the recruitment industry. Tell me about JobTetris and how this idea came about. What is JobTetris?
So essentially, if I talk about how it came about, first of all, it was part of the role of my role in operations, trying to deliver a better experience to job seekers and clients. I was really focused on how do we actually deliver better communication, keep them updated along the journey, but also then from a client's perspective, how do we actually build a better relationship with clients rather than just being a transactional agency? And that very quickly became the only way you can really do it is be more transparent and constantly keeping the candidates updated where they are in the process. And from a client side, it's kind of the same thing. But what really I found was that there wasn't really any tech to do it because everything was a single ecosystem, meaning we had an ATS, clients had an ATS or onboarding tool, candidates were using Seek, LinkedIn, Indeed to apply for jobs, and there was no source of truth. There was no connection. And even with JobAdder, I love JobAdder. We use it internally in the agency, but even our clients who had JobAdder accounts, we would have to download applicants, their candidate details, log into the individual URLs and upload them. And it was more that how do we bring it all together? So essentially what we did with JobTetris is we created a multi-tenanted ecosystem that lets the collaborate, brings in job seekers, agencies, and employers in a single portal and lets them collaborate and share information right throughout the journey. So from a client perspective, internal talent, it lets you manage the agencies that you're actually working with, manage the jobs from an approval workflow perspective, and also manage the candidate engagement, keeping them on track right the way through when they're being shortlisted, when they're actually scheduling the interviews, when you're onboarding them and being able to actually collect the information. But from a candidate side, it's actually being able to keep them updating you as well. Because if they get a job elsewhere, they can pull out of the process. But you get visibility as that as an organization, so you're not wasting your time in screening and shortlisting candidates that are no longer available, essentially.
Right. So it's really bringing, you've got your job boards, you've got your, as you mentioned, the likes of JobAdder, etc. You've got the client on the other side, you've got the candidate on another side. I know from my recruitment agency days, I can remember downloading CVs, copying and pasting, converting them to Word, putting them on a template, sending them over, getting them emailed back. This sits in the middle to solve all of those problems. Is that right? What is the unique selling point of JobTetris for someone out there that is curious about tech? How would you sell it to them?
You've hit the nail on the head. We are a middleware. We are the part that sits in between to actually manage the recruitment process. If you think of recruitment and what you do in a day-to-day, your ATS is amazing on posting a job ad and attracting applicants. But once it gets down to screening applicants, managing that whole engagement part, it's all phone and email. You're actually manually updating the information back into your ATS or you're sending it to your clients. We sit in the middle and actually track all of that information for you and track everything into essentially it's a single source of truth that we upload back to your ATS, but in a communication style, being able to manage between client and recruiter and candidate in a single system. And that's never been done before.
Nice. I can't think of it. I can't think of another example of anyone solving this problem.
No, that's the closest comparisons we've actually had to our system is PEXA. So in the real estate industry, so anyone who's bought or sold a house in the last 10 years it's a single system that speeds up the conveyancing part of the actual settlement process, bringing in the conveyancer, the bank, and the lawyers, and the seller, buyer into a single platform. And that's kind of the only thing we've done. Traditionally, most systems are always single tenanted because they want to protect their own relationship. We're completely agnostic. We'll integrate with any ATS. We'll integrate to any HRS or onboarding tool. Candidates can bring jobs in from any job ad, whether it's a job board, whether it's Seek, LinkedIn, Indeed, or an individual agency or employer's job board, and track them throughout. And that's the part that makes us really different in the sector.
Because I remember and even when I engage with agencies now, right, in an internal role, you've got everything that happens via email, or you've got, if you've got a good ATS where things can communicate, but it's the things like the candidate feedback. It's things like the next stages where, I know in the agency days, we would often not put that information into the system because we were so busy and, you're chasing your next placement because, that's going to keep you employed and give you your commission check, right? So all of that information is now captured in this ecosystem. Yes. Is that right?
100%. And even if clients want to reject or not move forward with an applicant or a candidate, they can actually put the notes in as to why they're not progressing. We'll give some templates to let them select from because we don't risk that. But the idea is that they can actually make the selection themselves. They can then actually send a notification to both the agency and the candidate saying, this is why you're not moving forward. And it's not like the candidate is waiting until a month later until the complete process is finished. As soon as the client moves them into the rejected pile, they're rejected. Simple. So it works both ways. And that from a brand perspective for the client, they know the candidate is guaranteed to get updated on this flow. But from an agency side, we did put some stopgaps in between. So an agency can review the information before it goes to the candidate, particularly from a time perspective. But again, it speeds up your process and being able to say, okay, well, candidate's being rejected. Not that we don't have a relationship with them, but at least they're closed off. And we're updating the ATS at the same time to be able to update the candidate notes there too.
Well, see, this is right because, the industry has moaned on and on for the last decade and beyond in terms of candidate experience and candidates getting ghosted, getting lost in the middle of all these convoluted processes where you've got the client, you've got the agency, So does the platform actually communicates with the candidate as well?
Correct.
So all of those, and are those highly customizable between the client and the agency? Like how does that communicate?
So we try to standardize it as much as possible because it is a single system for everybody. Makes it a little bit more universally friendly and to be able to say, well, you can guarantee that the candidate will always be updated or the job seekers updated in their fraction. But then if I'm moving a candidate into a rejected field, a prompt box can appear and say, okay, well, which one of these 5 options is the reason that kind of not suitable for a role, didn't meet qualifications, didn't have the kind of whatever the reason might be, all in a safe and secure way that's not going to come back on the employer to say, well, that's actually or whatever else. But yes, it's all about that communication flow and transparency. It's keeping everyone updated. And that was our part and my part when I came into recruitment is we talk about candidate experience. Everyone keeps going on about how important candidate experience is, but there's not a single system that communicates with candidates efficiently. Applicants, yes. Like we have applicants come in and apply. We send the applicants updated if we're not actually going to progress with them at all, or we might send applicants a potential kind of update on any jobs we have posted. But there's very few systems that actually help you build a relationship with candidates.
That's true. Well, look, I'm asking you a million questions about it, and I think the audience just want to see it, and they're sick of me talking. So, Brendan, if it's okay, I'm going to hand over to you to walk us through a demo. I loved the platform, and I know the audience are going to love it as well. So, Brendan, I'm going to hand over to you now, and let's see it in action.
Will do. Okay.
So before we jump into the JobTetris system, I wanted to give you guys a quick overview into what JobTetris is and what makes us different. Essentially, JobTetris is the world's first job and candidate tracking solution. Now, it sounds like a big audacious statement, but what we're about to walk through is going to give you a complete understanding of why we are different. When you look at typical recruitment systems, Essentially, they're what we call single entity systems. A job seeker can connect to an agency can forward the information onto an employer, or even a job seeker goes direct. That's great if it's a one-to-one relationship, i.e. a job seeker's only applying to one job. But when you have multiple job seekers applying for multiple jobs, and sometimes a job seeker applies for up to 50 to 100 jobs, that's a lot of different agencies and a lot of different employers that they need to keep updated on. And traditionally, information doesn't flow backwards. Once you make a change in your ATS system, there is no updates. And look, that's pretty much what we've been able to identify as well. When you look at an ATS and you look at the standard recruitment processes, everything from creating a job, posting it, reviewing those applications, shortlisting your candidates, sending them to your client or hiring manager, scheduling your interviews, or ordering references, and making an offer, it's all pretty much done a lot by phone and email. Our ATSs only cover the initial applicant screening part of the process. Once that applicant becomes a candidate, there is no real interaction other than email and phone. And that was one question we started asking ourselves is, how do we bridge this gap? How do we find a way to be able to connect the job seeker or the candidate with the recruiter, whether it's agency or internal, and give a bit more transparency to the flow, let recruiters know when a candidate is still available, be able to share the updates with those candidates as they progress through the process, right up until we actually make that offer and we want to move on to an onboarding system. And that's exactly what we did with JobTetris. We are bridging that gap. We are not an ATS. We're a candidate tracking solution. Once your applicant becomes a candidate, come across the JobTetris, and then enables you to build and grow that relationship with the candidate right throughout the process. Now, I've got a few people in the audience I can imagine has asked the question, but how and what's the difference between an ATS? Essentially, when I mentioned earlier that an ATS is a single tenant system, JobTetris is a multi-tenanted ecosystem. Now, what that means is we bring everybody into a single system. An organization has a portal, a candidate has a portal, and recruitment agencies have portals, and there's only one account for each individual. So it creates this layer of being able to share information without divulging IP, but also gets rid of a lot of the frustrations we've seen in the past, things like dual representation. The same candidate can't be put forward for the same job twice. If a candidate that moves on and they want to be able to withdraw from the other process, it gives them the ability to update everybody at once without relying on actually coming back into every single system. And that's what makes us really unique. We bring everyone in. A job seeker has their own portal to track all of their own applications. They can copy information across from Seek, LinkedIn, Indeed, or individual job boards and track them manually, or receive updates directly from agencies or employers if they progress to the candidate stage. Similarly, on recruitment agencies, they can manage the jobs and interaction with candidates and interaction with clients in a single portal. You're not having to log in and log out of different employer portals. And for the internal and employer side, again, it gives you a lot more kind of simplicity in vendor management, job management, being able to work with your hiring managers, flow of what agencies get what jobs, and managing the candidate, and most importantly, protecting your brand and ensuring that candidates are always updated the entire way through the process. Our system is built on 4 simple principles: to create transparency within recruitment, to build trust, to be able to deliver efficiencies, and as I mentioned, deliver that better experience, creating that layer of transparency to be able to show your candidates as they progress, but also if they don't progress and they're being rejected for the role, update them straight away. We don't want people to be sitting around for days or weeks after they've actually been rejected before they get notified. So let's take a moment and we'll jump straight into the system, and I can show you around. So welcome to the JobTetris system. Now, what you will notice straight off the bat is it looks like an ATS. We wanted to make it as simple as possible and transition for you guys and knowing exactly how to use it. What we have here is we have our admin view. Simple dashboard where you can track all of the jobs across your organization based on stage. But we also have things here like kind of overview and how many job link requests are sitting in our pile, how many pending approvals we have if you need approval from an admin, and then pending candidate invites as well. But I want to give you a bit of a walkthrough and kind of show you some of the features in the system. I mentioned before, particularly for the internal recruiters, HR, employer side, one of the key aspects that we struggle with is that vendor management. Recruiters coming direct, bypassing the process, and all of a sudden you receive an invoice on your desk, or agencies actually been working the wrong jobs. What we did was we created a simple connection bridging the gap between those agencies and the employer. What we have here is we have our connection tool where we can actually come in and invite recruiters. We can do a search of the system to get access to the list of recruiters who are already on JobTetris, or you can create a simple invite to any organization or any recruiter, to invite them in and connect with you as an organization. So I'm just going to put in some blank information here, just progress to the next page. But one thing we did notice and one thing we wanted to be able to define in the system was terms of business. A lot of agencies and a lot of employers, when they connect, there's not necessarily that commitment or relationship. There's no terms in place, and sometimes we don't necessarily guarantee that an agency is being able to represent your brand correctly. So what we've done here is we've created a standard terms. This is almost like a general terms of business between two organizations. Agency has representation of candidates, so on and so forth. It's fairly basic. We don't define payment terms, we don't define rates in this section. However, we do give you the option to have standardized customized standard terms, where you can actually come in and select the rate of pay, whether it's a fixed rate or a percentage base. You can select your payment terms and any special terms or conditions that you want to add into those terms and create that connection with the agency. Similarly, if you already have a standard term document or you already have terms in place with that agency, you can upload the document. Simply selecting them and going to next, you can then specify what type of specialization this agency is going to be recruiting for. Are they specialists in IT? Are they specialists in government roles? Depending on what that is, you can specialize it here, and it means only jobs within that specialization for the agency will they be able to receive. Similarly, you can actually limit the number of jobs. If you want to invoke a 3-job limit, so you're not giving out too many jobs to each agency, and coming next quarter, we'll also be introducing a budget limit. So you can actually allocate a set budget for agencies as well. Say you can only have $50, $80, $100,000 worth of spend across them, and we'll be all tracked through the system as well. But simple, easy tool. You can come in, you can see all the agencies you have relationships with, and you can edit those details anytime being an admin. From an organizational standpoint, we wanted to make it as simple as possible for organizations to come in. We already know some tech systems require massive implementation, they have massive amount of training. We try to take a lot of that off your plate. We define an organization as 2 simple things: their ABN or tax ID and the email domain that they use for their users. That means that basically each company can either only have one ABN and they can have multiple domains, but enables them to make sure we're not having duplications of organizations. You can create departments based off your requirements, whether that might be divisions, teams, locations, whatever goes to your own preference. It's simple to create. And then once you actually allocate or set those departments, you can create users and allocate them to each of those departments. That will become really essential when it comes to a visibility aspect. Users can only see on their dashboard the jobs for the departments they're associated to, and you can be associated to multiple departments, but again, it also comes back from an admin approval perspective. If a hiring manager, for example, is in as a team member, they don't have approvals to actually approve a job, that will then go to the admin for that department. So again, you're not going to a broader organization. So we make it as simple and as flexible as possible. But to jump into one of the key features, obviously, is job management. With this system, we do actually offer integrations between your ATS. So we've actually just completed the integration with JobAdder, which is now live. That will enable either one of 2 things, where you can create a job in your ATS and send it to JobTetris, or you can create a job in JobTetris and use it as an approval workflow. And once it's approved, it can go across to your JobAdder or your ATS. Now I'm logged in here as an admin, but if I was logged in as a team member, I'll be able to still do the exact same functionality. The only difference is when I press save at the bottom or create at the bottom, it will go to a draft and go to an admin for approval. So very similar to any ATS you would have used before, you can come in and create the job title, add a description. Again, the user, so we have all the different users. I've only got 3 users for this organization. It doesn't have to be the person creating it, but you then add the departments and what department this job will actually relate to. It can be multiple departments. Shortlist deadline comes into play if you are sending it out to the agencies and you want to be able to give them an idea of how long they have to recruit this role and supply candidates to you. Coming next quarter as well, we'll actually have a shortlist limit, i.e. a recruiter will be told what the maximum number of candidates they can supply in a shortlist for each job, rather than actually supplying 10, 15, 20 candidates and kind of sit and flick mentality. We understand that you guys allocate jobs to recruitment agencies to make your job easier. So why do we then accept 20 or 30 different resumes across from a submission? Similarly, we kind of come down and we have all the general information between employment type, work style, job type, again, full-time. Importantly as well, we have that recruitment type, if it's going to be an in-house engagement or it's going to be going out to an agency, if it's contingent, going to multiple agencies, or exclusive, and setting that rate value as well and what that might look like to be able to then come into that budgeting later. But I'm not going to bother creating this job. Let me go to one that's already been created so I can give you guys an overview of what actually happens in the process. So as I come across to the business analyst role that's currently sitting at reference check stage, when I come into this job, you can see there's 4 candidates already on the job. Now, I've already rejected one earlier today, but we have 3 people still in the mix. We have candidate 5, candidate 3, and Brendan Tremble. Yes, that is my other profile from the staging. What you also notice in these profiles is actually says candidate 5 via Fraser Tremble, Brendan Tremble via the agency, candidate 3. This is showing basically the recruitment agencies that these candidates are being represented by. Or then if it's a direct, it's obviously not by anybody. So we can already see 3 people in the mix, 2 are via agency, 1 is direct. Coming into each of the profiles, you can click in and see all the information as normal. One of the other benefits of JobTetris is being able to bring all the stakeholders from across the organization into the system. We encourage every user in the organization who is a part of a recruitment process to come into the system without the restrictions of licensing. We want those people to be able to get in, see the candidates that are involved in coming through on the job, and be able to put their own notes and communicate with those people as well. One of the other aspects here as well, and actually recruiters, in those stakeholders being able to come into the job and getting an idea, okay, what other agencies have we engaged? Typically, this is done by email. Emails being coming across from different agencies with a list of PDF resumes, and individual stakeholders have to review each individual email. This gives you a simple, clear idea of the agencies involved. We can actually click in and view this agency from here as well and get an idea of what other jobs they've actually been working for the organization. How many applicants have they submitted to us in total? And we can actually get some contacts as well for the individuals representing those jobs. But that kind of gives you a simple snapshot idea into that. But also then we have up the top, we have the invite candidates. So an organization, you can actually invite candidates directly. All you need is their email address, first name, last name. Because the candidates have their own profile, they build out their own profile information. Send them an invite, first name, last name. Email will go to them if they aren't already in the system. Or if they are in the system, they can just accept that request and be able to start sharing information with you then as well. And same with recruiters. Again, you can add recruiters from your connection list and send them a note. They will then be able to pick that up on their side and approve or deny the request, and we'll actually be working through it. So as I mentioned during the initial walkthrough, giving you guys an idea of some of the benefits of this system, having a multi-tenant system with everyone having their own profile, it eliminates things like dual representation. It eliminates things like candidates not being updated in the steps in the process, but also creates a lot of transparency as well. What you'll see now is kind of going through the notification process. So as we kind of move candidates through the stages, what you'll see, I'm going to move this candidate here into reference check stage. Now, because this candidate is being represented by an agency, the initial notification will go to the recruitment agency who's managing the candidate to be notified. There is a stopgap timer for agencies that can be anywhere between 4 and 12, 24 hours, where they can intervene to contact the candidate first, do their part on negotiations or influencing the candidate, which is their main job, and then release the information to them. But you as an employer or internal recruiter can be certain that the candidate will be notified if the recruiter doesn't do anything. And that works both ways. That will actually work on reference check. If we move a candidate to rejection. If I move this candidate right across to rejected, again, the candidate will be noticed. I'm going to cancel that because I want to keep him there. And really nice feature and what we built into the system. And again, this comes back to the idea of closing the gap between an ATS when an app comes through, right through to that offer and being able to offload to a onboarding, a HR system. You can create an offer through JobTetris. You can publish an offer of the position description, position title, the employer, the employment type, start date, annual salary. You can do the hourly, weekly, depending on your own, and publish that offer. And once you publish it, it will actually go directly to the candidate. They can then assess the offer, and if they want to accept it, they can accept it and come straight back to you with the information you need as far as any additional documentation. But if they reject it, same thing. You'll actually be notified straight away that they've rejected it. One of the aspects of transparency in this system as well comes from the fact that if that candidate receives an offer from a third party and they accept that offer, they can automatically withdraw from all the other jobs that they're currently engaged in one simple click. This is probably one of the biggest aspects, the pain points for both agency and internal recruiters, is that ability to have an understanding of where candidates are in the journey. All well and good us updating them, but sometimes we forget the candidates need to update us as well. And this is one of the best pieces on a candidate being able to update everyone from one single flow. So that kind of concludes the walkthrough of the JobTetris system. There is a lot of different features that we haven't gone through between managing agencies, managing candidates, past relationships, notifications. I could be here for over an hour going through all the different functions and features. I'll invite any of you, if you have any questions, by all means to reach out. I'll be more than happy to have a conversation and give you more of a detailed demo on the system as well. Thank you.
Brendan, I mean, it's amazing, right? You're solving all of our problems. All the agencies that are watching are going, okay, cool. All the internals that are watching are going, oh, cool. You know, you're removing all of this admin work as well. You know, that's in addition to, you know, just the fact that we're providing a much more seamless process, and we're being kinder to candidates, and we're being kinder to clients and kinder to agencies, and we're all working together on this united mission. Now, I know if I was one of the viewers watching the demo, the first thing I'm going to think is, all well and good, this is amazing, but I don't have a lot of money. So tell me, what's the pricing model of this? Because this is cool, but I know it's going to be a big question for anyone watching.
Yeah, look, we're quite unique because we have that multi-tenant system. It's quite flexible in the way that we do the pricing, particularly for the employer side. If you are an employer who's engaging predominantly through agency, it's free. We actually let you on board as many users, completely free. Because again, it comes back down to the agency side, and still the same on agency. If you're only using it to work with one client, it's free. We want to make it as simple as possible, actually, people to get in to use the system. Granted, then, on the employer internal side, if you want to engage candidates directly through the system and send them connection requests, yes, we do have some pricing based on the company size. And the exact same thing with the agencies. We want everyone in the agencies to be actually using the system. So we do simple pricing based off the size of the agency. As somebody who runs an agency myself, I hate per user license fees. Too fluctuant, too hard to manage. And again, it promotes only having one or two people in the company actually using it. We want everyone to be able to jump in, use it. It's all about sharing, collaborating, keeping people updated in the process. Like you would have seen in the demo, being able to actually bring all your stakeholders in. We want 30, 40 people within your organization to be able to jump in and see the information on the candidates as they come through the process and leave notes. Pricing is very reasonable in that sense of it's free to jump in, try it out, and you only really have to upgrade the account once you want to start engaging candidates directly.
Right, so there's no reason not to give this a shot, right? Give it a chance. Get in there and check it out, right? I mean, there's no financial risk. However, I'm going to ask the question. I've seen a lot of cool tech in my day, and I've implemented quite a lot of cool tech, and sometimes it can be a little bit difficult, right? So, how hard is this to implement? So we're all comfortable with the pricing model.
Yeah.
It's going to take a, army of project people to get it up and running, or, tell us about that.
No, that's one of the best things around how we built the system with that in mind. It was all about trying to build a system that was key towards every kind of cohort or persona that was using it, but also knowing the simplicity of onboarding was going to be a big part. When an organization comes in, single admin comes in and they can create their departments and their users so easily. We give you all the CSV templates you can convert everyone into. We had an organization last week with a talent team of 6 with 200 people in the organization. They completed onboarding by themselves within an hour.
Wow, what? An hour?
An hour.
Okay, it's that simple.
That's it. Look, integrations took a little bit longer, but actually onboarding to use the system and get people in to be in a position to set up your first job.
Yeah,
we've documented the whole thing on a 6-page onboarding document to be able to step by step how to do it. But the fact we actually give you the templates, you just go and actually populate in the information, and we do the rest, and then you let each individual user then create their own bio and stuff like that in the system. So it's quite very user-friendly, very efficient. And again, that's the whole point. We want people to get in and see how simple it is to start using it more and more.
Well, this is game-changing, Brendan. I'm really, really impressed with JobTetris. And again, congratulations. Now, I think you've sold everyone on the ease of onboarding, the pricing model, and also that amazing demo. So how do we engage with you? How do we look at trying this out? How do we reach out? Contact details, all of that.
I'm always happy for anyone to reach out to myself. You'll find me on LinkedIn, Brendan Tremble. You'll find JobTetris on LinkedIn as well. Otherwise, just go straight to the website, JobTetris.com, and you can go find the different pages for agencies and employers, and all the links are there to set up and register. As I said, it doesn't cost anything to get in and try it out. It's more just actually trying it, seeing it, and getting the benefits of using the system from day dot.
Excellent. And listeners and watchers, just to make it easier, I've embedded that link into the podcast summary. So do reach out to Brendan. I think, have a personalized demo, have another chat, and, see what you can do here. I just, from my perspective, this feels like a no-brainer, and something that we should all be giving a crack. So Brendan, again, congratulations. What's next? World domination with this? Are you going to transform the recruitment industry?
I think we're just going to try and make it a little bit better, a little bit more transparent, and a little bit more. I said the comment this morning with somebody was we want to make it less transactional.
Right.
Make recruitment actually enjoyable and give people the pleasure of recruiting again and build better relationships. That's our whole policy.
So where we're at, the amazing platform that you've just showcased will continue to evolve and continue to grow and get better and better.
Correct.
That's what innovation's all about, Brendan. Mate,
yes.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for sharing that with the community. It's really, really impressive. I know everyone out there will be just raving about it. So, mate, thank you for taking the time to share this with us today.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Brendan.